If you're planning on starting something new, whether it's a hobby, a career, or creating content online, but you haven't started yet, there's a good chance it's because you've looked around and come to one of these conclusions. It's too saturated, everyone's already doing it, it's already been done. These sound like logical observations, they don't sound like excuses, they sound like conclusions that somebody has reached after doing some research. When you break that down into reality, it doesn't quite play out how you might initially think. So by the end of today's video, I'll prove to you that the idea of your niche being too saturated is only holding you back from chasing your dreams. You open YouTube and see creators everywhere. You scroll Instagram and you see people building brands. You listen to podcasts and you hear successful entrepreneurs talking about their businesses. And after seeing enough of that, it's easy to come to the conclusion that everybody is already doing the thing that you want to be doing. Because it makes it out to seem like everyone who consumes that content already has a place to watch it. But that's because you're looking at it through a very specific lens. How are you meant to start a podcast when there's now millions? Why would you start a YouTube channel when thousands of creators are uploading every single day? The algorithm doesn't show you the millions of people who aren't creating, it shows you the people who are. If you spend all day watching football, you'll start to think everyone watches football. If you spend all day in the gym, you'll slowly start to think that everyone works out. And the same thing happens when you spend all day consuming content from creators. Slowly, subconsciously, you'll start to think that everyone is creating content. This is something called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, for those who don't know, is a psychology term, and it is the psychological tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. And you might not even know that you've developed these pre-existing beliefs, because like I said at the start of the video, it seems logical. But once this confirmation bias is built up in our heads, instead of looking at facts objectively, our brains naturally favor data that agrees with us while ignoring or discrediting any evidence that disagrees. And social media is specifically designed this way, to feed you more of the content you consume to keep you consuming. But that's not reality. That's your environment. Because something strange seems to happen when you stop looking at the people talking about doing something and start looking at the people that are actually doing it. That crowd suddenly gets a lot smaller. And I mean that so literally. The reality is that people are consumers, not creators. Most people watch, scroll, observe, but very few people actually put themselves out there and create something. But don't just take my word for it, here's some real data for you. I'm going to read out some stats. Only 1 to 2% of the world's population has ever created a YouTube channel. And that's including inactive channels and channels that have never uploaded a single video. Just creating a channel, not even uploading, already puts you into a surprisingly small group of people. From there on out, the numbers get even smaller. Out of every 1,000 people who use YouTube, only around 40 to 50 have created a channel. Of those 40 to 50, only around 20 to 30 have ever actually uploaded videos. 10 to 15 last for a few months, and only 3 to 7 of those original 40-50 will still be uploading consistently a year later. Just let that sink in for a moment. Think about what that means. People say that everyone's doing YouTube, when in actuality, the numbers say that almost nobody is. People say that it's impossible to stand out, when in reality, most people just never stick around long enough to find out. And this idea applies to almost everything, not even just content creation. Most people talk about starting businesses. How many people ever actually start one? Most people talk about getting in shape. How many people actually follow through? A ton of people talk about creating content, and then most people give up when nobody watches. And that's if they ever start at all. Jinxie, one of the world's biggest Twitch streamers currently, streamed every day for hours to 2 viewers for a year and a half straight before his channel caught any traction. If he were to stop when no one was watching, he would have never made it where he is today. And before you say, oh, he had 2 viewers watching, those 2 viewers were himself and his dad. If you don't stop trying, it's not guaranteed that you're going to blow up overnight. But if you give up when no one's watching, the only thing you guarantee is that you'll never even have the chance. Another way of thinking about it is, as long as you keep posting, one of your videos will go viral. You just don't get to choose what that video is. The gap between talking and doing is so much bigger than you realize, until you actually just take the time to look around you and see who's doing it. Which is why this idea of saturation is so crazy to me. Saturation is the evidence that it's possible to do it. There's already the blueprint laid out for you to follow. But people seem to think that it's the opposite. If thousands of people are successfully building businesses in the market, that tells you the customers exist. If thousands of creators are making a living from content, that tells you the audience exists. But remember earlier in the video where I talked about how social media is designed to feed you content based off your interests? If you're making content in the niche that already has an audience for that interest, at some point, your content is going to get fed to the people that, like you, also watch the kind of content you're making. From a business perspective, a market of no competition is often far scarier than a market with lots of competition. Because if nobody's done it before you, there's probably a high chance that there's a reason nobody's done it before you. Yet after all that, people somehow convince themselves that this proven demand is a bad thing. The audience is there, you've just got to stay around long enough to get noticed. Then there's the argument that whatever you want to do has already been done. Of course it's already been done. Almost everything has. The first podcast has already been made. The first YouTube video has already been uploaded. The first streamer has already gone live. If something having been done before was a reason not to do it, none of the creators or businesses or professional athletes you admire would exist. And the funniest part of all of this is that we understand this perfectly as people. If a new music artist appears in a genre you like, do you skip them because others already exist? After you've watched one horror movie, do you not watch any others? Nobody says I don't want to go to that restaurant because Chinese food's already been done before. New people and businesses enter spaces that already exist every single day, but we just struggle to apply that logic to ourselves. And the evidence for this is everywhere. People have been calling YouTube saturated for years, yet some of the world's biggest creators today hadn't even started more than 5 to 10 years ago. So I promise you, all of this comes down to consistency and perseverance. A lot of creators that made it did so simply just because they didn't quit. And they're just the ones who made it all the way to the top. There's thousands of creators that were consistent enough to make a living from their content, or even just extra money on the side. It's why I'm so passionate about motivating others to get started. Partly because I'm telling it to myself, to be honest, but also because the sky really is the limit, and put simply, you just can't lose if you just don't quit. The conclusion becomes difficult to ignore. The opportunity isn't gone, the opportunity is still there. The only question is, are you willing to get started and stick around long enough to get there? Now, I'm aware that there's plenty of other reasons people hesitate to get started, not just because everyone's doing it. Starting something new is scary, or the time might not be right to start just yet. If that sounds like you, I go over this exact thing in my previous video, so if you still need that extra push, go and check it out. Other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.